practitioners here, with the Core Council, the board, and with the committee chairs, and with the Finance Committee. And what a great unfolding is happening here in this community. You know, you all are in some transition and not having a permanent senior minister at the moment, and yet things are unfolding. And my thought this morning was to encourage you to enjoy this time, right? Like everything must change, and yet every moment has something to really enjoy. So right now you get to enjoy the variety of guest speakers, and then eventually you all will select someone to be your senior minister that will be a regular person up here, and then enjoy that process. Everything must change. That's a great song. I went and pulled up Nina Simone singing that just to kind of get a flavor of it, and wow, you did that song justice very well there, Stacey. Let's give her another hand. So this whole month is about creativity. The theme is creativity, and the topic today is living in the question. And I'm approaching it kind of from 2 points of view. One, living in the question in the sense of being comfortable with ambiguity, being comfortable not knowing all the answers. And then the second way of living in the question is choosing our questions really well. Choosing questions that expand us rather than choosing questions that are limiting. That first component, living in the question, being comfortable with ambiguity. I know for me, when I was first presented with this idea many years ago of living in the question, it really caught my attention, because I was that person who always wanted to have the answer. You know, the question was just a reason to find the answer. Like, the question wasn't supposed to hang out there. You're supposed to get an answer. You know, I was that kid in school. Remember the kid in school that was like, ooh. You remember that kid, or was that just me? Was that only in my school? that didn't happen in your school. Oh, sorry. I was that kid that was so anxious with the answer. I had the answer. I was ready for the answer. Pick on me, teacher. I got the answer. And then little did I know the value of a question. Like what a question can teach us. Like to be with a question. To just live with a question. Like it's a little uncomfortable humanly, but like living with a question and then what that can teach us. Sometimes when I was a senior minister of the center and I was giving a talk every Sunday at that center, and I had to pick my topics every Sunday, I would choose topics that were interesting questions for me. Like I didn't have the answer already. I would choose a topic and go like, wow, I sure would like to know the answer to that. And knowing that as I chose it as a topic, that question was going to work with me the whole week. That question was going to work with me and inform me and shape me and open me to things that without that question I would not be opening to and I would not be experiencing. Asking the right question, or asking expansive questions. Asking expansive questions are asking questions that open us and open greater possibilities. Questions that are limiting, I find myself, oftentimes, since I moved from California to Colorado, people would ask me, so do you like California better or do you like Colorado better? And I'm always stopped by that question because it feels so limiting. There's only two possibilities. I can either like California better or I can like Colorado better. And it doesn't leave this broad spectrum, which is the reality of my experience. The reality of my experience is that the question would be more like, what do you like about California? And what do you like about Colorado? And then I can answer that question from my real experience, which is, oh my goodness, I experienced so much amazingness in California. The ocean and the beauty and the diversity of it all and the hugeness of it, going from the north to the south, and just so many things I like. And then in Colorado, the mountains and the trails and the hiking and the outdoor, the people are so into the outdoor activities. And I could go on and on. But if you just ask me, do you like California better or do you like Colorado better? It's a conversation stopper, just like, oh, how do I answer that? How do I answer that question? People ask me sometimes, Do you like being a minister? Wow! I only get 2 answers for that question. Only 2 possibilities for that question. Yes or no? It's like, what day of the week are we talking about? And what time of the day are we talking about? Now, if you asked me, what do you like about being a minister? Or what don't you like about being a minister? Now I can really give you an expansive answer. So this kind of applies across the board to our lives as well. I want to share a quote from Ernest Holmes in Science of Mind. It says that such is the power of right thinking that it cancels and erases everything unlike itself. That it cancels and erases anything unlike itself. So it behooves us to be choosing the right questions of what we ask ourselves. So for example, in our personal lives, we could ask ourselves, should I get this particular degree or should I not get this particular degree? And it's a very limited question again, because it's like yes or no. A more interesting question to me would be something like, what do I value right now in life, and what would allow me to express in the greatest way who I am? And what would support me in doing that? Now that's a really interesting question, and maybe as part of that it might be, oh, this degree would really support me in expressing a greater abundance of who I am. Instead of should I live in Maui or should I live in San Francisco, like what place would I live that would bring the greatest amount of fulfillment in my life? Instead of, should I marry this person? What would allow me to express the greatest love right now? What would allow me to express the greatest amount of love in my life right now? Instead of, how could I possibly have this? What will my life be like when I have this? I love the readings that Bob chose. The Science of Mind teaching is so rich, it's so amazing that we can use this creative power within us. We can impress upon a law that which we want to create in our lives. We can begin thinking in a direction. So these questions become really important in that regard. Because if I shut myself down with the questions I'm asking, then I never even get the opportunity to open up to something greater. Instead of why can't I have that, how would I need to be to create that? Instead of why can't I have that, how would I need to be in order to create that? And that's a much more expansive question. That leads me into a whole process, a whole creative process of now creating something new in my life. In this book that we've been using all month called Creative Confidence by Tom and David Kelly, who are brothers, they talk about a lot of, there's some great examples in there, because it's all about innovation and how we're all creative, but sometimes we don't acknowledge our creativity, and becoming more confident in our ability to create and be creative. And so in this book they talk about these questions where there was a product team that they developed this great MRI machine. And it was award-winning. It was an award-winning MRI machine. And the one guy who was like the lead guy and responsible for designing this was going out into the field to see the results of his work, of his award-winning product that he was responsible for creating. And so he went into the hospital to observe this product being used, and was waiting for all the accolades from, you know, this award-winning MRI machine that was just the state-of-the-art design. And he went into the hospital, and it was the children's ward where they were using this MRI, and he watched, to his horror, this child dreading going into this MRI machine and saying, "Mommy, please don't make me go in there, please don't make me go in there." And he suddenly, rather than feeling great about what he had created, thought, "Oh my goodness, like, I've not created something good at all. Like, the people who are using this are really afraid of it." And then it turned out that there were statistics that showed that even though an MRI is not painful, there was a huge percentage of children who would be sedated to get an MRI because of the great anxiety and fear around it. And so he went back with all this information, and they designed these MRIs particularly for children that became like pirate ships. Like, so instead of entering into this, cold machine, there was a whole theme of like a pirate ship, and then another was like a spaceship. And when they went back, one of the kids was coming out and said, "Mommy, can we come back here again next week?" And it's like, what questions are we asking? The questions they were asking were questions about the technology and the machinery and the mechanics of it all, and the type of materials used in it. But the questions we ask being so important. What questions can we ask ourselves differently today that create a different experience? One of the things they talk about in the book is they quote the psychologist Robert Steinberg, and in quoting him, it's about people who are more available to their creativity. They describe people who redefine problems in new ways in order to seek out solutions. People who tolerate ambiguity when they're not certain that they're on the right path. And people who continue to grow intellectually rather than to just rest with their skills and knowledge. So it's like living in this question as opposed to already having all the answers. Like, are we willing to live in the space of continuously learning, continuously opening up? Like, I don't know. Like, valuing this idea that, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know the answer to this. And I'm okay because the question that I'm living in, is informing me, is teaching me, is opening me up. Talking about living in the question today. There was a time in Oakland, California, where I was running a nonprofit, and I was working with what we call at-risk youth. And the questions I was asking myself were assuming that these kids had the same exact experience that I had in my life. And so I went in there and discovered that these children were having a totally different experience than what I had had. Like, I assumed that they went home, had a meal with their family, did their homework, had this very structured life that I grew up with. And it turned out their lives were not like that at all. So I had to ask myself very different questions about how I serve this group of people. And by looking at that differently, it opened me up to serve them in such a greater way. It was like taking me out of my box, if you will. What's your question today? What's the question to ask yourself that begins to feed you on a day-to-day basis? What's the question? Is the question, how am I to be in order to manifest that relationship I want in my life? How am I to shift my presence in order to create a more fulfilling life for myself? What's your question today? We're at a crossroads in our life. Can we hang out with that ambiguity? Can we hang out with that question of not knowing exactly how things are going to turn out? And just be with that question on a day-to-day basis. What's the question here today for you? This is a contemplation. What is the question here for you today? I'm giving you that for this moment right here. What is the question in your life right now that could be reframed such that you begin to see your life differently? I'm called to ask someone if you have that question. What's the question that you're called? What's the question that you are called today to ask yourself that would shift things in your life today? Who has a question that they want to shift in their lives to create a different experience today? Yes?
What do I love?
What do I love? Excellent question. Who else has a question that you want to reframe that sort of starts to open up the way, open up the pathway to a greater experience for you?
What if you're not sure what the question is?
What if you're not sure what the question is? And that's a perfect example of living in the question. That's a perfect example of living in the question. Can I be not even sure what my question is? What is your question about your question? You have no idea. Excellent. Excellent. What do you want in your life right now?
Happiness and love.
So maybe your question is something like, one question that comes to mind is, how do I need to be to experience happiness and love in my life? Another question might be, what kinds of things align me with happiness and love in my life?
Those are good questions.
Yes, yes. Thank you. I love this. Let's keep that mic out there. Sometimes, even as a speaker, you have to live in the question. There's your notes, and there's what you thought you came to say, And then there's something that starts to move in you that says, no, that's not it. So I would love to hear from someone else. What's the question percolating for you that you're living with today that is opening the way for something greater in your life? Well, a lot of us are taught that the answer, you know, like, see, I think this is even a funny question because we're taught that the answer is the big deal. But someone said, love is the answer. What's the question? So we know the answer is love. But what's the question? What's the question that you're living with that is informing your life? One of the things when and the floor is still open, by the way, so you can raise your hand at any moment, but one of the things when I became a minister is this idea came to me that I am to not have animosity toward any person or any being. And that was really a huge question. Like, how do I do that? That was the first question. Like, how do I do that? And what do I do when I do have animosity? Since the call is to not have animosity toward any being. But the question was more important than the answer. Because the question was, how do I live in such a way that I have no animosity toward any being? That has been a great teacher for me that is still teaching me today. How do I live in a way where I have animosity toward no being? And so it becomes a practice for me. It becomes a question that informs me and then becomes a practice, because then what do when I do feel animosity toward another being? I go within and I ask the question and I look within myself and it becomes my practice. What is it about this person? What is it about me? What is it about me that would somehow have me not be able to embrace this divine being before me? Who else has a powerful question that's guiding your life or that you are opening up to in this moment? Danny.
Where should I live?
Where should I be living?
Where should you be living? And, okay. And is there a broader part of that question? Like for me, when I think of that, I start to ask questions like, well, what is your intention? And what do you value? And how do you want to serve? You know, like how is that to serve you being in this place that you want to live?
I have conflicts. I know what I would like to have around me, and yet now I have to be where I am needed, and that isn't necessarily where I would have the things around me that I really want around me.
Ah, yes. 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 So one question that comes to mind is, how do I embrace the divine perfection of what is right now? Like, how do I embrace the divine perfection of what is right now? How many of you know that everything in your life right now is absolutely perfect and exactly as it ought to be? Everything in our lives is absolutely perfect and as it ought to be. Unfolding into the greater, because everything must change. And everything does change. All right, Brenda.
How can I be the answer?
How can I be the answer? And what do you want to be the answer to?
Whatever my question is, how can I represent the answer?
Are you asking me that, or that's the question you're asking me? How can I be the answer? My answer is you already are the answer. You are the answer to so much. My question back to you is, what are you specifically called to be the answer to? right? Because you're the answer right here today. Like you're sitting here and we're having this service here, and we want to have a community of people, of conscious people, and people who are looking to be in a space of learning with each other and in a space of growing with each other, and you're the answer to that. Like if you didn't show up here today, and you didn't show up, and you didn't show up, and you didn't show up, this wouldn't be happening. So you're the answer to that. What are you called to be the answer to?
That is the question.
Yes, and that's a beautiful question to live in and not feel like you have to have an immediate answer to. That's that question that will inform you and inform you and inform you. What am I to be the answer to? What is my calling? How am I to serve here? Who else? This is great. I'm loving this. All right, right over here.
How can I experience,
How can I experience a healthier future?
How can I experience a healthier future? Now, I would offer you a question that might be more productive for you, which is, how would my life be experiencing this tremendously healthy future? How would my life be? Because how can you do it is the straight science of mind, right? Like you're applying these principles. So it's like the question that becomes, that allows you to apply the law in science of mind, is how am I to be to create this healthy future? How does that make sense for you? How am I to be to create this healthy, or what would it look like? What will my healthy future in my life look like? Because you're creating a picture in your mind, and then you're impressing that upon a law that is receiving what it is you are stating that you're going to create. Yes? We can talk more after service. Thank you for that. Thank you. And I see the children are here. It must be my time to get off stage. So I say to you, love is the answer. What's the question? Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you. So I just speak this word right now briefly to know that God is, and all is well. One power, one life. It is my life. It is the life of each of us here. We go forth from here empowered, blessed, and we are a blessing. I give thanks. I let it be. And so it is.
So it is.